Between college football teams, disease awareness, and hundreds of other license plate designs, Alabama drivers have quite a collection from which to choose.
But despite the variety, a religious license plate and many religious terms aren't an option for drivers in the state. News 4's Allison Mechanic has been looking into this. She joins us in the studio with the first part of her series on the separation of church and plate. Allie?
Well, Reg, Natasha, with Alabama being in the heart of the Bible Belt, it may be something you never even thought about, since it's common to see religious symbols on cars, in buildings, or even hear a prayer before a meeting begins. However, one place you will not see religious phrases are on license plates, and that's because many religious phrases are banned by the Alabama Department of Revenue. But not everyone believes that this is a fair exercise of the separation of church and state clause.
These words may not require you to put $1 in the swear jar at home, but in the eyes of the Alabama Department of Revenue, they're considered bad language or objectionable, just like these. Despite the difference in definition, the religious terms are seen the same way.
It violates us on every aspect of having rights. Separation of church and plate. That I cannot express my religion on my license plate.
The separation of church and state is defined as the government being neutral when it comes to religion. So could banning certain religious license plates be a violation of the First Amendment? The Alabama American Civil Liberties Union says it may not be that cut and dried.
On one hand, the Constitution says the government can't promote a particular religion. On the other hand, and then the Constitution also says that we have a free exercise right of religion. And in order for us to have a free exercise right, the government really needs to be neutral when it comes to religion.
If one says, I believe in Jesus, and somebody says, I don't believe in Jesus, you can't allow one and prohibit the other.
Despite different views on what should be allowed on vanity license plates, both sides can agree on one thing. Calling a religious term objectionable or bad language is upsetting.
But the law always states that we cannot put nothing vulgar or profane. So now are you calling my religious recognition or expression profane?
I think I agree with him because, I think the problem becomes who's the decision maker and what criteria are they using?
The Alabama Department of Revenue states that there's no difference in meanings. So although some feel freedom of speech means they can express whatever they want on whatever they want.
So I can have an identified license plate, but I can't put nothing about God on it. Right. That makes no sense. That takes away my whole First Amendment.
Others see the state's revenue department as a way to protect religion.
Some terms have been so overused that they are actually not particularly religious anymore. And that's one reason that it's important to keep the government out of religion. We don't want religion to be diluted. We want free exercise of religion for everyone.
In total, there are 5,191 banned license plates in the state of Alabama. To find out if a specific plate is banned, you can visit the Alabama Department of Revenue page and fill out a new plate request. Reg, Natasha?
It's interesting stuff. Thanks so much, Allie. Tomorrow, Allison looks into a Florida senator's attempt to create a Christian license plate featuring a stained glass window and a cross.
Should be interesting. Taking a closer look at an issue that many people may have never even thought about. License plates.
In today's segment on the separation of church and plate, News 4's Allison Mechanic investigates a previous attempt for one religious group to display their faith in the Sunshine State. Allie?
Reg, Natasha, like Alabama, Florida drivers can choose to support a variety of different causes, athletic teams, and organizations when selecting a license plate. But over the years, a couple lawmakers attempted to make a religious license plate an option for drivers. Although they were unsuccessful in their attempt, the debate over whether such a plate should be made continues.
Let's take a trip down memory lane. The year 2008. Aside from President Barack Obama being elected for the first time and Michael Phelps winning a record 8 Olympic gold medals in Beijing, it's a pretty typical year nationwide. But in the Sunshine State, things are getting a little heated over in the state Senate.
Representative Ed Bullard wants the state to issue a tag to help Christians pronounce their faith.
The state shouldn't be in the business of advertising somebody's religion.
Attempts to contact Representative Ed Bullard were not answered, but according to the Associated Press, Bullard proposed the I Believe plate to give Christians an opportunity to put their beliefs on display. But not everyone agrees with that statement.
For the state to actually decide a license plate is going to be offered and then produces them and makes them available. When the state does that, that is the state's speech.
As former members of the Florida chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union, Randall Marshall and Susan Watson protested against the I Believe plate, not because it was a Christian plate, but because of the message it was sending.
That showed that the state of Florida was a Christian state.
Absolutely. And therein lies the problem, is government losing its neutrality and favoring one religion over all others.
In 2009, the I Believe plate was shot down at the end of the regular legislative session on Friday, May 1st. It was a win for the Florida ACLU for the fact that it was a plate proposed by the government.
We have a free exercise right of religion, and in order for us to have a free exercise right, the government really needs to be neutral when it comes to religion.
But what if it wasn't the government that proposed the I Believe plate? Could a religious license plate become a reality if another group proposed the plate?
Any organization can petition to have a specific plate made, and if they can get the requisite number of people to sign up and agree to take it, then those plates can come about. I think the best example of that is the Choose Life license plate that has come about through an individual organization. And that's not the government speaking, that's the organization speaking.
In other words, it's possible for the I Believe plate to be made if enough people said that they would buy them. One of the main reasons it didn't become a reality in Florida in 2009 was because it was the government who proposed the plate. If the I Believe plate were approved, Florida would have been the first state to have a religious license plate available for drivers. Reg, Natasha?
All right, Allie, that's interesting stuff. Thank you. We want to know if you would buy a religious license plate if one was available.
Just head over to our Facebook page and tell us whether you would purchase one if it was available in your state.
We've taken you through the wording of vanity license plates in Alabama and showed you how Florida tried to pass a religious specialty plate. But in today's segment of Separation of Church and Plate, News 4's Allison Mechanic is tackling another section of the license plate in the Peach State that changed in recent years. Allie?
Natasha, today we're talking about the bottom middle lettering of a license plate. Alabama says nothing. Florida says the Sunshine State. But in Georgia, drivers have options when it comes to the standard plate. But these options weren't always equal choices.
You may not notice it when you're driving past a Georgia car on the highway, but if you take a closer look, you'll see that not all standard Georgia license plates are the same. The difference is front and center. Prior to 2012, the county drivers lived in came standard on the plate. But for $1, a driver could purchase a sticker with the words "In God We Trust" to cover the county name. In 2011, 339,186 drivers made that choice in the Peach State. But that didn't sit right with one politician. Georgia Senator Bill Heath of Bremen proposed Senate Bill 293 because he says it was, quote, unconscionable that a state would profit from an expression of faith and respect for our nation's motto. But what about other Georgia drivers?
I think it should be an option available for people that want to make a statement about their belief and their tag. That's their option to do so.
As a Georgia resident for more than 40 years, Hall knew the "In God We Trust" sticker was a possible option for his plate, but didn't know if it was the right fit for him because of the additional cost. Senator Heath drafted Senate Bill 293 in 2012 to stop charging drivers who want to have "In God We Trust" on their plate. It passed, and now drivers have the choice to put their county name or "In God We Trust" on their license plate. Fast forward 2 years. Nearly 25% of drivers in Early County currently choose to put the "In God We Trust" sticker on their license plate. Because even though drivers have a choice, not everyone knows it.
I might go with the "In God We Trust," but I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know that it was free and that I got to choose.
I don't know which way I'd go at the present time. Now, I thought it was a charge for it. I didn't realize it was going to be just an option.
Showing that in the Peach State, one plate does not fit all.
Now, Georgia isn't the only state to have "In God They Trust" on the bottom of their standard plate. 15 other states have incorporated the motto on their state-issued license plates as well. Natasha?
Very interesting. Thanks so much, Allie. Looks like each state has its own concerns when it comes to having a religion represented on license plates. Have an opinion on the regulations Alabama, Florida, and Georgia have on their license plates? Tell us about them on our Facebook page.